in Canberra at the National Open Teams, would have a meeting, and people would come along and they would talk. And I learned a lot from that. I really did. And uh, I would like to see us coming back to those days. I think we sort of lost our way there, and the teaching style of things has been much more one person presenting rather than a collaboration. And I think there's a great deal to be gained from coming back to a collaboration. And my personal ambition, my personal attempt to make a contribution to our group is along the lines of making sure we get good numbers in our classes. I think we should be working towards volume. And if we've got good, strong classes, this is a very good thing. And one of the things which we do reasonably well is getting numbers. Right now, behind me, Niven is running a class right now with 50 beginners, and I've just left the class to join our wonderful meeting here. And we have numbers of people, and I'd like to share certain things about what we do here, what we do well, perhaps some of the things we do badly. And also, the question of retention is critical as well. To me, numbers are critical. And if we can get good numbers coming along to our classes and we can retain them, then we're really taking a good step down the right path. And I think many people have got great ideas to contribute on this front. And when it comes to retention, I think it's all about giving people achievable goals once they come to the classes, not aiming for too much, but giving them some steps to take and then reassuring them once they take those steps. That's very encouraging, and that's the basis of retention as far as I can see. So that's really, I'd like to play my part in bringing this thing back to life. And I really, once again, do acknowledge the terrific job that Lorraine has done and Nick has done to keep the thing running and to bring it back to life at this point. And I'd certainly like to play my part there, and I welcome my appointment to this role. That's really what I think, guys.
Okay, thanks for that, Paul.
I do think that, if I can just cut in there, Nick, we used to have a big meeting every year at the NOT, and I do think that we should have regular meetings with on Zoom, and we can all get together on Zoom and we can appoint different people to make presentations. And I would love to hear from different people, you guys. And when you've got a particular information, particular experience, we want to hear about it. And that's, to me, that's what our Teachers Association is all about.
Okay, we might move on to a few agenda items. Thanks for that. I set out an agenda, then I'll just go through a few of the items quickly. The first one is getting on with the ABF and with state associations. As you probably know, the ABF has stepped away from both training and contacting teachers. It's been about 4 years, I think, since Joan Butts finished her stint, and nothing has happened since then from the ABF. It seems to me that the ABF is shifting teaching away to the states, to the state associations, and some states indeed have stepped up to fill the gap, particularly New South Wales and Victoria, with the formation of the new organisations, Bridge New South Wales and Bridge Victoria. And it certainly seems to me that the ABTA has a clear role in liaising with both the ABF and with the states. That's all I want to say on that, but someone might want to make some comments on liaising.
I would add the point that the ABF did try to get involved in appointing teachers about 2 years ago through Rob Ward, and he appointed William Jenner O'Shea in a teaching role. And William Jenner O'Shea is a great teacher, as we all know, but he didn't attract numbers, and he had very small groups.
May I just make a comment here that we really need to have teachers who do not have to spend all their time doing the teaching, because most of it is volunteer work. It's people who just love bridge and really want to share that with other people. But unless we can actually expand the group and sort of increase the level of knowledge of the teachers, so that there can be succession planning, so that there can be relief for one another. I mean, many people, I don't know about, well, I don't know a huge amount about bridge either, because I'm a late comer to the blood sport. And I've gone through my own experience of sort of learning how to play bridge. And what you were talking about, Paul, about people can be really mean and nasty. No, sorry, that was Alan, wasn't it? That
Leslie,
you can
yep.
actually, Leslie, sorry, that when you come out and you're sort of out there on the floor with all of these people who are just so much cleverer than you are about it, can be really quite threatening. So we've developed at Toowong a system where we actually have the beginners, we have the supervised play. We're looking at putting that into 2 levels, so that the second, that there is a more advanced group of supervised play. We have a row where we have people who are playing against. They're all got less than 50 points, and so they're there. We need so that they're able to consolidate their knowledge and to practice. And so what we're actually doing is we're actually trying to get more people trained so that they can fill in these roles and learn from the current teachers how to do it. And to that end, we're actually having Joan Betts coming and doing a course for us this weekend, Thursday and Friday, which we're pretty excited about. And we've got 17 people, a couple coming up from the Gold Coast, others coming from Kenmore, that are quite keen to try and learn more, so that we can keep, education alive in our clubs. Sorry,
there are hundreds of teachers in Australia, hundreds of teachers in Australia. It's a question of being able to contact them. I want to talk a bit about seminars.
Can I just ask a couple of questions, please, Nick? If I could start with Paul and also Carolyn. It really, number one, starts with gathering people or getting people interested in the game. And I'm delighted to hear that Paul's got 50 people. But I mean, I'd like to know how other teachers are attracting the people, because it seems to me that that's step one in whatever else you do. If you don't attract the people, you can't move forward. It doesn't matter how many teachers you've got. Paul, is it an unusual situation where you've got 50 learners?
Oh no, not at all. I mean, in February we started with 190 new people, and right now behind me, I'm at the club right now. Right now we've got 50 people in one class, but we've got 2 other classes with these people, and also online. Just about all these people are still with us, and so it's not unusual.
They don't know what
to do. We also have a masterclass.
Should I give them the link?
Every month have a masterclass. We have 150 people on the masterclass. I intend to give guidance about what we do when it comes to marketing. And someone's talking there. I intend to give guidance about how we go about the marketing. And I'm going to come up with some very simple ideas, and I'm sure that many of you have thought about them. And the number one idea is that we need a sales force, and the sales force we've got are the other members of our club. And so we need to tell them our story and say, listen, this is what we've got going on, and this is what is going to be really good for them, because we're going to teach them things and they're going to be excited because it's achievable. We're not going to give them too much, and they're going to be excited, and we want you to bring them along. And then they start bringing their people along, and we get them to bring other people along, and we build a database. And I'm going to be advising teachers to go about building this database and stay in touch with them. And it's just a pathway to bringing people in. And I've got something to contribute here, and I'm very keen to share it.
Well, I think if I could just briefly reply, I think you're absolutely spot on, because we live in a small community of just about 3,000 people. So the number of possible candidates is very small. And we've tried various ways of advertising over the years. And without doubt, the best way, the most consistent way is word of mouth. And that comes from getting the membership to get off their butts and go and talk to people. They're in the shopping centre or wherever. I think if you go down that way, you're great. I'm not sure that works on a national scale, but you're certainly right. Word of mouth, if you can get people talking, that's the way to find them. I mean, I'm envious of Carolyn having that number of people. We struggle each year to get half a dozen new people. It's a real struggle. And I do have a database going back years. Anyway, that's my point, Paul. Good luck to you.
Thank you. I can see your issues here. Coming from a community of 3,000, I can see it's going to have challenges for you. And I'm not sure as to how it would all go there. But anyway, I'm very keen to share some ideas and see what we can do here. But we require numbers, and we need them to survive. And we are able to bring in certain numbers. That's what we do.
One way we can help, of course, is running seminars, and I want to talk a bit about that. It would be good to have teaching and directing seminars at some major national events. I go to Coffs Harbour in August, excuse me. And the good thing about that is that there's a free Friday morning, a free 3-hour break on Friday morning between the pairs and the teams. So the pairs finishes, the team starts the next afternoon, and there's 3 hours during which people can learn, people can attend classes for players and training for teachers. And it would be good if a lot of national events had that sort of thing. I know Orange is on now, and that starts tomorrow, and they play all day Thursday, all day Friday, all day Saturday. Then they play Sunday morning, and then people drive home on Sunday afternoon. So I understand why they do those sorts of things, but if we can prevail upon national organisations to set aside some time, doesn't need to be a lot of time, in the middle of some of these national events, it would help us to run face-to-face seminars. Even state events, you could do it. There's a mixed pairs in Sydney next month, and it runs Saturday, Sunday. We could have a teaching seminar on the Friday afternoon before that happens. But the ABTA's role is to easily run nationwide Zoom seminars, and that is certainly the way to go for us. You may know that the QBA, the Queensland Bridge Association, runs a very successful online directing seminar every year. And they've done it, and they get lots of people to speak and to present, and they get lots of people. And we should aim to do that sort of thing, a regular online annual or nationwide seminar with a lot of good presenters. And that's one thing we'll be looking to do pretty soon.
Nick, just cutting in there. So we're actually running a beginners to directors course through the BV Bridge Victoria actually this weekend. So it's actually a combination of face-to-face and online. So we've got about 20 people at the moment, and 5 of them will be online. So I completely agree, and it's certainly something that needs to have more access if that's be online.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, these things are really easy to arrange if we get enough people.
Nick, may I contribute to this? I've been listening to the discussion so far and wondering whether some sort of crystallization of the ABTA's aims for the immediate future is necessary before progress can be achieved. It sounds to me that there are at least 3 major areas in which activity is possible. One is marketing and player recruitment, as Paul has said. One is teacher development, which is what the seminars could achieve. And one is resource sharing, which is what I think Bridge New South Wales and Bridge Victoria are attempting to do by putting materials online. My only involvement with any of these has been with respect to resource development, but it seems to me that all 3 of these are things that members of the ABTA could contribute to. And I wonder whether what we need in the first instance is a relatively short list of goals under each of those headings for the ABTA for the near future.
Yes, I'll speak a bit about our website in a few minutes' time.
If I could interject for a second, I'm from a very small club over in Western Australia, and today we started off with a class of 4 new people to start. And the problem that I see with some of the bigger clubs is that they don't have a program to integrate the new people into the club. There's a certain elitism about the ABF, and if we look at the top players in the ABF and the champions, we see that they have all red and gold points and hardly any green points, which is indicating that they're not participating at the club level. In our situation, we can do it a little bit more easily, but the thing about it is that after they've done their course, they then play with a monitor for 3 or 4 weeks, and then assimilated into the club. But being a small club, we can do it that way. But the problem with the slightly bigger clubs than that, we've only got 65 members, the bigger clubs than us, they tend to have this sort of elite level, and those elite people don't interact with the newcomers. And so that this then spoils the newcomers, that they don't want to participate, and the style of the club running the clubs is often very direct. There is it's only bridge, a couple of bickies and a cup of tea, and then more bridge, rather than integrating and having a more social life. We're finding that the older people coming in, they're coming for social reasons as much as for playing the bridge. So there's need to identify how to integrate people into the clubs and to re-educate the clubs so that they have a formal method of their top players playing with some of the new people and helping them along the way. It's no good just talking. They actually have to be sitting down with them and participating in games. Thank you.
Yes, and a number of clubs have a mentor program. So when a class finishes and they've been playing supervised for a while, they have some of the senior players just to play with new players. That's sort of a risky thing to do because some of the senior players tell the beginners things that they're not ready to hear. So it has to be carefully monitored. But yes, that's something a mentor program or Sadie Hawkins race, something that all clubs should aim for.
David, can I just make a little comment on that? I think that the main difference here isn't necessarily the type of master points they award, so green being duplicate and red being more state. I think you're wanting more about the integration. So at these congresses, which are red point events, a lot of them in Victoria do have novice sections and people and awards and prizes for people that aren't at the top level. I think the biggest issue is the integration after we've had our lessons, and whether that be through mentorship. We, when we first started Tricks and Trumps, we had a very small club, and so we had to come with lots of ideas, I guess. Initially, our club was only 20, so sometimes our beginners class might only be 4 to 8 people. And when that first happened, we went from the classes to a soft duplicate. I actually don't remember if you know the stop cards from the breeding boxes. I traced all of those and made them help cards. So once they were out of sort of a supervised, they got 2 help cards a session, and they could put up their hands, so they didn't feel so scared to go. They could still ask, but they were obviously not able to ask every question. There's a lot of clubs do a lot of programs and mentorships, and there's certainly a lot of things around which I think that this group could probably help you with. But I don't think it's necessarily a green point, red point thing, because there's lots of things in place to help up and coming players and certainly social players.
I'd like to comment on David and Bianca. I think David is absolutely right. And what he highlights is that there is a complete chasm between the city clubs and the country clubs. The country clubs tend to be smaller in numbers. The number of possible students is much smaller. And you must have there needs to be a different attitude towards those clubs and the larger clubs. We simply can't get the sort of numbers that Paul's talking about. They don't exist. And therefore, we have to accommodate with a different group. And Bianca, I'm sorry, Dave is also right when he says that there's a huge amount of social activity. There certainly is in our club.
Absolutely.
Every club. The number of people who go to congresses now, because is probably 10 out of 100, right?
I agree.
And I will tell you, Bianca, apart from those 10, and even including those 10, I don't think one of them gives a damn about points. Not one. They don't care. It's irrelevant to their lives. They joke about it. Can I use them as Green Shield stamps? I mean, points only matter to the elite, and whether they're gold or super gold or platinum or whatever, nobody else cares. I don't know how many points. I don't even know how many points I've got. And I've been playing and love this game.
And neither do I. But to be honest, the top level players don't care how many points they have either, because it's not like in Australia, we run competitions where you need to have a certain amount of points to attend. I think and I certainly know that Paul has a different view on this, and a lot of people do have different views on master points. But I used to like it when they used to have the blue master points. So once you got to two blue master points, you knew you were ready to graduate from and then go on to the next level. And obviously then we have green and red and golden also. I think I really like the fact that when we had our little small club, we brought back the emphasis of master points. And the reason that helped us is because a lot of people ask why to join the associations and what's the difference other than master points if you join. And so we sort of need to make that a bit more of a deal. And so we used to give out merchandise when they reached certain levels and suggested different things for different levels. And I just think that I know that obviously a lot of people don't like or follow or care about master points, but I certainly think that there's a place for it. And one of the things that I understand, I'm from the country, Leslie, so I completely understand the differences between country and city. I personally really love the country clubs because you're going to get a good cuppa and a sandwich and a chinwag over there as well. But one of the things that I did recently, I went down to Ballarat and we ran a stall at their O Week at the university. And, we had a game of 2-player bridge going, a game of 4-player bridge going, and we signed up 20 people. And it was funny. As soon as you said to them, what are you studying? I could relate it back to whatever they were studying and why bridge would be good for them. So I think that there's always a way to bring different players in. And I certainly think for the country areas as well. And I hope that this is something we'll share going forward in ways to get players into the club, because it seems that it's just as important as teaching and coming together as a network.
Okay, I think we need to move on a little bit from that. I've got another. One thing I'll say is that the Gold Coast only was an open event about sort of 20 years ago, and now the intermediate novice Gold Coast is twice as big. It's twice as big as the open section, which is interesting. I want to talk about the newsletter. For many years, we printed and mailed a quarterly newsletter to ABTA members. That was a good idea. It fell away in recent years, but now that newsletters are easier to produce and they can be read online, it's time to restart that with a short, regular newsletter. Now, I'm going to be away for 6 weeks, but I'll get something together when I return. I would be an editor, but newsletters are only good if people send them stuff, so I'm going to ask as many people as possible to send me material. Everyone who's here will become a de facto free member of the newly formed ABTA. You will receive a report on tonight's meeting and a newsletter in due course.
Just one thing about the newsletter, Nick, I think it would be wonderful to run case studies in there. And that would be the story about a particular teacher that set out to put on a course of some sort and to tell the story, what you did well, what you did badly, and we can all learn from it. And I find it extremely interesting to find out. And the goal in the whole thing really has to be attracting certain people and developing some enthusiasm for the things that we're doing. I'd love to hear about your stories. And the next newsletter is just a perfect medium for it.
Mhm.
We used to have a website many years ago with stuff to download, like PowerPoint shows, deal files, self-contained classes, etc. I've lost the site, but the data is still around. One of the hardest things to do is to design bridge hands on a theme. It's very hard. Around the country right now, there are plenty doing just that, often duplicating the work of others. We can help each other here. It would be good if someone with better web skills than me could take over doing a website. That's something we'll address in due time. We also had a Google group, but that no longer exists. I want to note that Bridge New South Wales has a WhatsApp group for teachers, and I think that's a great idea. And every state should try to arrange something like that, where teachers can just chat about anything, anytime, and get any sort of a response. So that's a good thing for every state and the ABTA to aim for. One more thing about accreditation. We used to have a simple written exam for many years, but we had no way to judge a teacher's ability. This was just like a hoop that they had to jump through in order to become members of the ABTA. We wanted to ensure that teachers were decent bridge players, so there was an exam. It was marked by Greg Whitner, and he made useful comments. This is my view, I'm not so keen on teacher accreditation. I don't think we should be telling people this is the right method to teach and the right way to teach it. For instance, if a teacher wants to teach ACOL or 4-card majors, we might advise against them doing that, but I believe it should not be up to us to decide what people teach and how they teach it. I wonder whether people have any comments on that.
I wrote the original exam for the ABTA, teacher's exam, and the idea of it was something which everyone could pass. It didn't require any great expertise as such. It required a certain interest to get involved in the whole thing. And so it was really just a bit of effort, really, to become part of the group. And, it became more of a test afterwards, I think, rather more. But I agree with Nick's point entirely that we shouldn't be dictating that you must teach this or you must teach that and you mustn't teach this. But I do think that any teaching methods should be backed by results. And if certain methods are being taught and they're not attracting a following, then that's a definite mark against them.
I've got something to say on teaching methods. I agree that the teacher shouldn't be directed to teach a particular way, but I think that it's easier for a student to learn ACOL style bidding methods, 4-card suits, rather than to learn the concept that they're going to bid a 3-card suit before a 4-card suit. I think I've been doing that for a long time. It's easier for them to see the pattern that exists in the language, and it's easier for them to learn that way and then make an adjustment to 5-card majors if they so desire. And I know I'm in the very small minority that will teach the way that I do, but I just think it's so much better for a student to understand how the language works and to deconstruct it. And I think that's much harder for a student to grasp if you teach 5-card suits before 4-card suits. What it's worth, I've been doing it that way for about 15 years professionally.
I think that train has sailed, but it's, of course, you're right, of course.
It should at least be a recognised system that's being taught.
Of course it's a well, like ACOL is a recognised system.
Yes, I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying it should be a recognised system.
Of course.
Doesn't mean to say that the people who are teaching it are in fact not teaching bad habits.
No, of course, it's better for the students to learn a recognized system because then it's easier for them to progress and play with other people as well. But I would say that one good measure of your teaching ability is your attention rate. And the more confusing and more complicated the lessons are, the more students drop off. So I'm of the opinion that you should probably teach less, do more revision, and get them hooked rather than try and be ambitious and teach them too much in a beginner course. Just try and
I've got to
simplify it.
agree with you there, Jeff.
I think all of us would agree there. I mean, I've been teaching bridge for a long time before most of you people, well, many of you were born. And I've been around lots and lots and lots. And all of my progression has been to make things more simple, always, throughout the 50-year career of teaching. And no one has said, I'm giving up bridge because it's too simple. No one said that. And people do say the opposite, however. They, oh, it's too tricky, I haven't got time for it. But no one said, oh, this game is far too easy, I've got to find something else. Never. So I think we should be giving people easy milestones to achieve, and they can achieve them, and they can hang them up on their the back of their thing, and that's what we should be aiming to do. And I think that's the secret to retention. And I really would plan to discuss some of these sorts of ideas.
A neighbouring club of ours had a neighbouring club of ours was teaching ACOL with a professional teacher, a 10-week course. But as soon as they finished that, they went to play in the club, and every other member were playing standard. So they suddenly became quite confused. So they've got to rethink how they're actually doing the training.
With that, on that note, if you teach ACOL style but with a strong no trump, then it's a very minor adjustment to go from 4-card suits to 5-card majors. And some of them choose to do it and some of them choose not to do it. But it's not like they're speaking completely different language and they don't understand what's going on. But I think it's just good to be able to deconstruct, when it comes to bidding, to deconstruct the bidding rather than give them rules, to explain to them what the numbers and what the suit denominations mean, and just to break it down so that they can understand what they're doing rather than try to remember what all the bids mean.
This is the end of the formal part of the agenda. So we've covered those agenda items, and that's the formal part of the meeting that's over. Everyone will get a report, but now we're supposed to throw open the meeting to general business, and then people can chat about anything or as long as they like, and the meeting is still going on. So it's open slather now.
Well, Nick, I'm happy to go first if you're looking for the names. Right at the beginning, we were asked or it was suggested that we come forward with 3 things, and I'm probably looking at Caroline and David in particular here from what they've said. The first thing is you have to know what your students' objectives are, right? And we've touched on this, I think. Right, is there a clinger amongst them? Well, in our area, no, there isn't. They're too late. They're late in learning, like Carolyn. Okay, but you need to know what their objectives are. And part of those objectives in many, many cases in the country, in my part of the country anyway, is that the social aspect. The social aspect is dominant. It's very, very important to them. So there is a desire to learn, but not a desire to get master points or win congresses or anything like that. That's the first thing I'd like to say. So you have to know your students' objectives. The second one is that when we do our lessons, there is always a mentor at the table. I don't think it's possible I personally don't think, I've tried and failed to teach with, shall we say, 2 tables or 3 tables. I can't do it. You're rushing from table to table. And so what we've done here in Hawk's Nest is I make sure that there is a mentor, somebody who's been through my classes earlier, who is there to help individual students. And you find that if you've only got 3 or 4 people at a table, that the people are far more likely to put their hands up and say they don't know. And the notes that we use are very easy to understand. They can be, and they're easy to follow. And the students work out most of the answers themselves. And the last point is one that really has only just come to the fore. And that is, how do you cope in a relatively small community with people joining at different times of the year, right? Well, there's quite a lot of building in our area, so maybe 50 new houses going up. So what's happening is that people come in at in January. Some new ones come in on February, some come in March, and so on. And if you're running a class, a structured class, you're stuck because you're already at lesson 7 or 8 or 9 or whatever it is. So what we're going to do this year, and it's a trial, is that we're going to have 2 mentors there at every, 2 teachers, mentors, whatever, at each lesson. And if we've got a newcomer coming in, that person will be allocated one-on-one with one of the mentors in the hope that we can bring them up to speed and join up with the rest of the class. Because what's happening is that unless you're running a class and they express interest and you say, oh, I'm sorry, the next class is in June next year, the interest is gone. It's like catching fish. You've got to grab it while you can. And that would be my advice to anybody in the country, because we don't have the numbers. I mean, Paul's numbers are unbelievable to us, or me, right? There's just there isn't that many people. Anyway, that's my tuppence worth, and thank you for listening, Nick.
If I can in there, it's interesting, Leslie. One thought that comes to my mind is perhaps videos are good ways for these people to come on stream. Maybe you have access to videos, maybe you don't, but that's a pathway that may solve the problem.
I think Leslie also, because you've got small numbers, you might have to rely on technology more, online lessons. And I don't really see how you can deliver bridge lessons on demand. Certainly for me, I just have it. Well, I have it on my website that a new course begins in February of every year, and you write your name down to register your interest, and I'll contact you in January to confirm. That's how I do it. And I don't really see how you can just take 1 or 2 at a time and teach them properly. It takes too much resources.
In my strong view, it's much better to have 1 class a year with 6 tables than have 5 classes a year with two tables. Much better. So even if it means you're telling people to wait for a number of months, I think that's the way to go.
Let me assure you that it doesn't work. Okay. You may want it to work. I would love it to work. It doesn't work, right? Anyway, you can ask me again in 6 months' time and tell me I was wrong, but we are going to try this way. It's the only way I can think of to work my way around it.
What about something in the interim? So what about saying something like you run lessons on every school term, so that way you're running them 4 times a year?
That assumes there is a surfeit of people wanting to learn. It doesn't work like that, Bianca.
But Leslie, didn't you say, but the people mainly play for social reasons? So if you're going to give lessons on demand, then it would be better for a group of 10 or 12 people to all do it at the same time than to try and take one at a time as they show interest, because then they miss out on the social connection with the other beginners.
Well, we know for a fact that we are losing people because we're not available. Jeff, I don't know if it'll work, right? I've identified the problem, which is the first step in any solution, right? I'll let you know in 6 months if it was a failure or not. We're going to give it a go. I can't see any other way around it. It's as simple as that.
I agree with Leslie. The situation that we've got is that we actually have a group which meets for 2 hours on a Wednesday, and there's various levels in that group. And so some people are doing more advanced education, but it enables us to introduce new people and with a one-on-one or one-on-two training, and they mixed with the others, but they are gradually integrated with the whole lot. So for a small organisation, it's the easiest way to go. If you've got a bigger club, well, then you can have the 6 and 10 table training sessions. But so we only attract 3 or 4. Well, I think each year we get 6 new people coming in, which we go through a training program. But there are others in the training area who are doing advanced lessons, so that we can actually integrate them reasonably well.
I've spoken like a true countryman, David. Well done. If I can answer Paul, during COVID, and talking about Zoom lessons, during COVID, to keep the club together and to try and keep new people interested, the people who did express interest, I conducted with help, Zoom lessons. And they were very successful, and something like half a dozen people who attended those lessons still play. So that technique is available. And it's part of our intention here to offer that this year to try and attract the people who can't play on a Tuesday morning or a Thursday afternoon, and try and gather them up that way. Again, I don't know how many there are out there. We're going to advertise. We're spreading the word right now, and we'll find out. But again, unless we try it, we won't know. Anyway, the system works. Using Zoom and BBO was highly successful, and actually a great deal of fun. But our community has how can I put it, the unfortunate reputation and truth that its average age is 17 years above the national average. So they're not exactly, Bianca, thank you for laughing, they're not exactly computer literate. So you've got to make even Zoom lessons so bog simple that I can understand them, because if I can understand them, most people can. But it can be done. And I understood that Steve English was going to be here tonight, because he and I pushed that barrow down the road, but he couldn't generate enough interest for me to be able to prove to him that the system I was doing, which is capable of improvement, could be used.
Leslie, one of the things that I did just after or during the COVID periods, I actually had times when players came in and asked me how to show them how to use a new iPhone. So, and then also we did things online, and then we obviously went to Bridgemates and all that sort of stuff. So everyone's been able to get along. Sometimes you just need a bit of help.
Mm-hmm. May I just say, Leslie, thank you very much for your 3 points. I think they're very, very valid, and I really like the reason that we want to have more people from our club learning the basics of what people are being taught is so that they can perform that role that you're suggesting of having the mentor at the table and having the more immediate provision of things. One of the other difficulties that I think that we have, particularly in the city, attracting that younger cohort, is we really need to have more night lessons, because the day lessons are for the retired and the semi-retired, but for the people who we really need to recruit them, because they're our future. I'm ancient, so we really need to have a lot more younger people coming through into the system. So we definitely need to have more of the night lessons, and more of that one-on-one or one-on-3, depending on that. We do have mentoring, but the thing is, we've got to consolidate the learning of the basic learning for people first, so that they're more able to then learn how to break all of the rules that they've been busy learning in the earlier stages of their bridge. Anyway, enough from me. Thank you.
I think you're quite right, Carolyn. I think the point that I would say as a follow-up to you is that the people, the vast majority of people hopefully are employed. They're not going to be available during the day. And therefore, if you do the Zoom lessons at the evening, they can be made fun. And that's the image we want to project. and you can do reviews with them. They can they can play somewhere online, and then we used to hold review sessions again by Zoom, where we would pick up a particular hand and discuss what went wrong or what they might have bid or whatever. So it's there for in our case, it was forced because of COVID, but there's no reason why it couldn't be used in the evening.
But I also suggest, could I suggest to you, Leslie, that you look at a program called, or a website called RealBridge, that enables students to play, but also have video and sound connection at a good quality, and it makes the experience more social. And the teacher can broadcast, share a screen just like on Zoom. And I think the quality of this experience online will often determine the retention rate as well. But I just think that is a tool that for online teaching that you should really look at. And that's what I use predominantly during the COVID period, and to do to the pleasure of my students. I'm also very familiar with BBO, but it's much of a less social experience. And as you're well aware, that new players mainly come for social reasons, to make a social connection. When you can see and speak to the other players at your table, it's sort of halfway between live and like faceless computer. And I think it's not as good as being face-to-face, but I think it's an acceptable alternative for many students. So they're also very helpful with regards to training prospective teachers how to use that tool. So I would, suggest.
Jeff, you're probably absolutely right. I can't remember why I went via BBO and I didn't go through RealBridge. I suspect I only became really aware of RealBridge, pardon me, later on. Yeah, that could work too. The point is that one way or another it's possible.
Yeah.
This little seminar will auto end in 5 minutes. We can keep on going, but then 5 minutes time it'll be all over and I'll be writing to you.
Leslie, just in relation to some marketing ideas, if you want to touch base off the record, I'm not sure if this is the right platform to talk marketing and whatnot, but I've got a lot of good marketing ideas as far as retention goes if you want to contact me.
Sure.
Thank you, Bianca.
Okay, thanks all. We had sort of 20
Well,
odd people,
if we're
and
gonna,
a lot of people who couldn't come.
If it's silence, the one thing that I would, if I had to say the one thing that my students have appreciated over the years, and that is the mentors. I cannot overstress it. I absolutely cannot overstress it. They have been there to encourage, cajole, and you can't do that in a big class. I know in a big class, you've got to have big classes, which is great for Nick and for lots of other people. But when you're dealing with half a dozen people or 8 people, which is the most we're lucky to get in any one year, right? You've got to be so sensitive to their objectives, and they're scared to move on. All of those things. The mentors, Carolyn, mentor, all the way.
An interesting thing, Leslie. Mentor thing is new to me, and I'm certainly going to give it a bit of a look.
Paul, I want you to remember the first time you played. How were you?
I was hopeless.
You were probably witless. You were probably scared witless. Yes, you were. Yeah, and you are being replicated all around the country, right? Those first steps are scary, and they need somebody to hold their hand and get them through it and dip their toes in the bridge water and get the confidence to move on. I think too often we've forgotten what it was like those first times.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I agree with you, Leslie, but I think a mentor doesn't have to be a teacher, just has to be someone who makes the experience more comfortable for the new player. But I think and among the players in your club, many will put their hand up
Yep.
to be a mentor.
Yep.
And they just see that they're just helping someone out, not necessarily taking a teaching role.
Did you know the funny part, Jeff? The really funny part before we get chopped off, a lot of the mentors learn a lot.
Yeah, it's
They
mainly
do.
about having social human skills rather than
Well,
bridge teaching skills.
there's nothing harder. There's no better way to learn something than to teach it.
Here.
Find gaps in your knowledge which are frightening, and the students aren't slow to point it out.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can. Team of three is great. The three of them get together, and then the captain who's given their time gets pulled out of a hat, and that's your captain. They get to play. You probably 2 or 3 rounds or whatever you want. Either 5 board rounds or more, whatever, and goes the 3 team matches. It just gives them another perspective on moving. It's quite good.
I just want to say very quickly, I'm agreeing with you, Lorraine. I need to go to visit my group through here. So thank you very much once again to everyone, really. I think it's an exciting beginning here, and let's hope you really do something terrific with it.
Breath of fresh air,
Yeah.
New phases.
Sorry to be rushing off, guys.
Yeah. Okay, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes, it's going to shut down in a couple of minutes. So thanks all.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks for making it happen. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, I found that they love it. They really like it. We turned out to run it twice a year now because they love their first taste of team play. Yeah, these are people playing for a couple of years or whatever. They're not raw off the bat. And they just like the new format where they only play for maybe 5 boards around or whatever. And they really love it. Well, when are we going to have it again? We have it sort of twice now because they all like it. It all comes from the supervised class. So.
Yeah, Lorraine, we teach them all 2-player bridge to start with, so they can teach all their friends and try and get their friends interested as well.
Really? Yeah.
And then it's not so scary to be in front of a whole table of 4.
Okay, everyone. Sorry, it's going to end right now. I've got to do something to end it. So
thanks, Nick. Sorry I was late.
See you around.
Thank
See
you.
you around.
Bye.
Okay. Bye, Sue.
Oh dear.